welcome everybody to the monthly meeting. To this, like I said, to the ones over here, but the other ones in here. The meeting will be fairly light today. We have 2 trip reports, so it should be fun. Certainly I tried to make my pictures fun, but we'll see. Like usual, we'll go through the past and the future events. And then Larence will regale us of the fun he had going down to Florida with his Tesla Model 3. And then I'll talk about my my trip from in the UK. So I saw lots of EVs, as you can imagine. So I'm reporting back on that. We'll go to the news, then we'll do the roundtable. Art is, and I see him right there on the screen. Art will talk a bit about something that he wants to start up. He wants to do a virtual power plant. So we'll talk about that during the roundtable. So he's looking.
We have a surprise for the news.
Huh?
Big surprise for the news. You'll see them. They don't see, you know, but
Just keep going.
I don't know what you're talking about, but anyways. Anyways.
it's not my.
Okay, so let's go through the past events. So Kilowatts and Coffee again for in May. So pretty busy. Did we actually do one on May 4th? Because we hadn't done on May 4th. No, May 5th. May 5th was the event. That's right. It's a Sunday. So May 5th in Kentville. I wasn't there, and but I hear that it went pretty well, although it was very wet, is what I hear. Do you have any idea how many test drives you did?
I did one. I found, like, compared to last year, the participation at the fair was maybe about 25 to 30%.
Because of the
It could be.
And also it wasn't on Earth Day, whereas most years it's on Earth Day. And there were other events that were going on apparently in the area.
Okay.
Distracted from that one.
I did about half a dozen rides.
Half a dozen?
Yeah.
Okay. So, but we should, Ryan, I don't know if Ryan's on, but we should look at that, I mean, we did. But anyways, raining does make a huge difference. We saw that with the event at Lansdowne Park a few years ago. I don't know if you guys remember the time that we had this humongous downpour. And we had very few participants, but things came back to you after. So, but anyways, great to have that happen and great to be somewhere else when it happens.
Is it raining all the time in the UK?
Well, actually, it almost never rained when I was there. We almost got
Must be you.
5 or 10
Yeah,
minutes
you
of rain. That's it.
Yeah, you
saw
that.
Okay. So anyways, upcoming events. So again, next monthly meeting, 24th of June. Cars and Coffee, Kilowatts and Coffee. So we have, yes?
24th of June. I don't think we can have it here. It is the Saint Jean and
Okay.
the 5 days.
So let's talk about it and we'll figure out what we do. Okay.
Okay.
So anyways, Kilowatts and Coffee. None for the first 2 weekends of the month because we're doing something else and we'll talk about those after. Then we have 3 for the rest of the month, right? So should be another good day for that. In a couple of days, this Wednesday, we're doing an event at Patagonia. It's really OREC that's doing the event.
Yeah.
And you have to be registered. And what I'm hearing from Art earlier today is that registration is full. Unfortunately, they had 84 tickets, I believe it is. So there'll be a movie that'll be showing, and the movie, my understanding is it's a movie on in Europe. They have this co-op of co-ops, like an amalgamation of co-ops to do green energy, and they've got humongous installations and humongous amounts of money helping drive green energy. So lots of the windmills in the Netherlands, by the way, are actually owned by the community. They're not owned by big companies, right? So, which is a key to getting people to accept them. Okay. So anyway, so the film is on Wednesday. We'll have a table there, so we'll be talking to people about whatever they want to talk about. So,
Street right here.
yeah, it's not too far from here. And actually, this construction is what you told me, right? So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. So next event this weekend, and we're still looking for people if some people are looking for something to do on the weekend. So we'll be doing the fun fair again. So Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And anyway, so if you're interested, the sign up sheet is there. Would encourage you to sign up as soon as possible so that we could well, so we know you're there. Also, we set up the appointments for test drives to be pre-booked, right? And I know you asked me a question on test drives and insurance today, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that, okay? Then, oh, look at that guy. I wonder who that is. Anyways, Electric Vehicle Society, when I did my presentation to KCOR earlier in the year, I sent it to the guy, Tim Bowers, who organizes the series of presentations they had. And he said, can you do a condensed version for us? So I will be doing that on June 4th. And the title, as it says, there is Can E-Mobility Happen Fast Enough? The idea there is to talk about market share and where we are, where it's going. Because some of the previous presentations they had really, in my opinion, very much underestimated how fast things will be happening, okay? So I'll be relying on the projections that you did and also some of the other stuff that we did previous, okay? So fortunately, as far as I know, there's, tickets left. No, sorry, this one, there's tickets left. It's the Patagonia one. So this one is virtual only, so as many people as you want could register, okay? So last week I got an email, there were already 85 people registered, so we encourage you to register. Then the weekend after, June 8th, the Climate Network Lanark. So now we're doing a smallish event with 4 cars that will be, or up to 4 cars for test drives, and we'll be doing a presentation. I think, Mike, you're doing that one, right?
Yep.
So, so anyways, these guys reached out to us wanting to do something and decided in the end to do a day specifically for us and not mix us with other stuff. So this is pretty good. Should be an interesting event. And what's nice about it is it's in Almont, right? So it's not in the middle of the city like we always do, right? It's further out. And you probably know that a lot of people think that if they live in the country, then, these EVs won't work for them, right? But in reality, it's really the opposite, certainly in my opinion, because if you're living in the country, typically you'll drive more, right? So you'll save more, right? And you don't need a charger in your community. You need a charger at home, but also on the way to where you're going, right? So a lot of people think that because the little village doesn't have a public charging station, then, an EV is not for them. No. So we're going to try to change that impression on the 8th. And so it should be a pretty interesting event. July 20th. So there's a big gap there. Okay. We're looking for other events we could be doing between the two. But July 20th, we're doing the car show in Westport. It's a regular car show, but we're adding the EV element. We'll have, again, 4 spaces for cars that will be doing test drives. And the booth and all that kind of stuff, right? So it should be an interesting event. Also, next one, Carp Fair. We haven't booked it yet. Still waiting for them to start planning so that we can actually book it. But we're hoping to book that for September 26th and 29th. And then the other one that's happening is the Lansdowne Park event, which this picture shows Lansdowne Park, right? It will not be a Lansdowne Park. That's the one thing I know for sure. So SmartNet Coalition did not reserve the space. And of course, someone else took the space for that weekend. So right now, what they're doing is they're talking to the Ottawa Conference and Event Center. That's the little conference center that's beside the ballpark. Okay. Not a bad location. It's relatively central, large parking lot.
Is that
Okay.
the Hilton one?
Is it a Hilton? Yeah, I thought it was a Marriott.
Where the convoy is.
Yeah. I thought it was a Marriott that was there.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, there's a little hotel, right?
Yep.
But there's also a convention center.
I've been there I've been to convention center.
Yeah, I've been there too for an event or two. So it's actually a nice venue. So, and I think given the location, it's really good for test drives too. So, so this, if they make that happen, I'll be happy. As most of you know, this is normally our biggest event of the year. And I was very disappointed when.
This begs one question though, how, do we have any statistics on how much of the people we interacted with was from natural foot traffic versus people showing up there for the SmartNet event? Because that may have a downside for us if we're not in a place with foot traffic.
Yes, so if you look at the SmartNet event itself inside, they had only some of 300 people in there, right? I think, given the location and all that, I could see why people had trouble knowing where they were for one thing, right? And it was sort of off to the side. We were right in the middle, right? So we actually counted 3,500 people that went through our area. Okay, not everybody stopped on, but a lot of them we got to talk to and they saw the EVs and all that, right? We did about 100 test drives that day. So a really good event for us, right? I think part of the problem for Smart Grid Coalition is the event last year was not that great for them, okay? So it sort of took a while for them to decide that they wanted to do it again, okay? So this is something that fell by the wayside when Nick left and was replaced by, I remember her name, short, red hair. Anyways,
Doesn't hurt.
her. Very nice lady. But it was the first time she did it, and Nick Nick was already gone to something else, right? So anyways, it didn't turn out as well as they would have wanted to. Just wanted to mention also at the same time that Nicola and I are doing some work, and Nicola wanted to show the pictures. So if you look here on the left-hand side, that's our trailer with our car, and there's 4 containers there. So what Forêt Capitale is doing, so there's an organization called Forêt Capitale, and they're based out of Just Foods, where we store the trailer, okay? And what we're doing, actually, Nicola is cleaning these things. These are new containers. What they're gonna do is they're gonna bring these containers to where they've planted trees, and that'll be there'll be water, so they can water the trees on a regular basis, okay? So what we did last year is we were actually bringing the water to the locations. Last year, you may remember, lots and lots of rain. So we didn't bring much water, but this year there's more locations, and so I expect we'll be doing more. So it should be interesting. It's about a ton, right? It's about 1,000 liters, these things. So it's about a ton.
It's 1,000. It's exactly a ton.
Yeah, so it's a,
Metric ton.
yeah, so it's a fair amount of weight, so. But the car has no issues pulling it, right? No issues at all, but it's still a pretty big.
Mix water in it?
Yeah,
With the water in, no problem.
When they're empty, they're not.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
When
I'm just looking at the trailer and thinking that's 4 containers.
Oh, no, that's.
No.
Okay, good, yes.
No, just put one at a time, right?
Okay, yeah.
So it's not like.
You need a ton.
Hey, it makes a bit more sense.
Yeah. So Nicola brought them home to clean them out because some of these one had chocolate sauce in it. And we've got 2 5-gallon pails of chocolate sauce that we need to figure out what to do with.
That's why
Anyway.
you have ants all over the neighborhood.
No, there's still.
So yeah, he's covered them with plastic and all that, but anyways, we need to get rid of that, but each of those had something else. There was an industrial food product, right? So we're cleaning them out, or Nicola's cleaning them out to be able to use it. Anyways, so that's a bit of a anecdotal thing. So Larence?
Question, no plans to do Pride this year?
We could do Pride, actually, it's on our list, but again, Pride is one of those organizations that they start actually doing stuff sometime like in June. So we haven't contacted them.
It'll be at the last minute.
But yeah, but last year we had to wait until about a month before we could confirm stuff, right?
Okay.
So I'd like to do Pride, but it'll depend how much it costs and all that, right? But yeah, absolutely, I'd like to do it. It was a good event last year. We had lots of foot traffic. We talked to lots of people.
A lot of non-EV people.
Exactly, very much outside the bubble.
Yeah.
Right, and again, that's why I want to go to Carp Fair, right? Because it's outside the bubble, right? Lawrence?
All right, yeah, this is a segment to talk about a road trip I did. The purpose of the trip was really just to spend my 6 months of free supercharging on something worthwhile. And the destination was chosen because, and this is gonna be relevant to the story later. Back in January, I went down to Miami for my friend's bachelor party. And we were planning the party, and one of the things we wanted to do was go to the Kennedy Space Center. We didn't have time for it back then. So I decided, that will be our destination for this road trip, using up my free charging. And a lot of the stuff isn't really gonna surprise Tesla drivers. And fortunately, the type of driving we did is becoming accessible to non-Tesla drivers as well. But
What car do you drive, Lawrence?
that's gonna be the next slide.
Okay.
Right, so anyway, we didn't do any sort of planning at all, really, like, all we did was we punched into a better route planner before the trip, just to get an idea of the timing, just to give us like an idea of what to expect. But we didn't follow any kind of planned directions when we went on the drive. We just got in the car, put in the destination, and then we actually didn't even follow the Tesla's directions very closely. Like, it would recommend a place to charge, then we would sometimes be like, oh, it's telling us to plug in when we're still at like 50%. That's stupid. Let's find a further away charger that we can get to. And we typically target like, let's arrive with 10%, 10 to 20%. But the key here is like, we didn't drive it like an EV. I feel like when I'm out on the road and I see other EVs on the road, I feel like a lot of them are driving slower than general traffic on average. Like, I think EV drivers are afraid to drive fast. I don't know. That should just, maybe I just drive too fast and I just drive faster than everybody anyway, but like, and yeah, I'm sure that's not you, Mike. But there definitely are like, and like my dad is probably one of those EV drivers. Like, he has a Chevy Bolt. He's afraid to drive it to Kingston. Okay, like, you know, like some people have their things and whatever, but I want to try and convince you a little bit that you don't have to be as worried about that stuff. You don't have to be as worried about your range, quote unquote, evaporating at high speeds. Because we really drove at kind of the limit of what you could do without getting ticketed. Like, we were literally at one point on the trip, I talked to a state trooper and was like, hey man, how fast can I go without you pulling me over? he choked on his donut, but he was like, 9-10 miles, like you're probably okay. So, and then sometimes the methodology was set the cruise at like 10 miles over whatever the limit is. If there's other people driving a little bit faster than that, follow them. They'll be our sacrificial lamb. We saw one of our lambs go down during the trip.
Did you thank him?
So anyway, the point is, on average, we were usually cruising between like 120, 130, sometimes a little slower, of course, in like city centers, sometimes a bit faster than that as well. And we average 165 watt-hours per kilometer, which is really good.
Yeah.
And it was, almost a 5,500 kilometer trip. So what did we do it in? We did it in a Model 3 long range. You know, one of the things that I thought we were going to do before doing the road trip was we'll probably put it in chill mode. We're probably not going to want to go too crazy with the energy consumption. We did not do that. It was driven in sport mode with the full, like, I don't know, 450 horsepower unlocked the whole time. It doesn't have aerodynamic wheels. It has aftermarket fast wheels without the aero covers. And yeah, it's a long range with the 75 kilowatt hour battery, so you can kind of use that as a reference for, with our consumption, what the range would be. I don't remember what the number was. I think it's like 450 kilometers or something like that. So, you know, kind of touched on some of these things a bit, but one of the things we really noticed is if you drive in kind of quote unquote fast lane, or, you know, you're sort of like, so, you know, sometimes like groups of cars form there and they sort of just drive together, you'll get similar efficiency to if you're like a lone wolf in the right lane, because you're going faster, but you're also drafting off of other people. And you shouldn't tailgate people, but even if you're like a few car lengths behind the car in front of you, you'll still get a drafting benefit. And you'll probably even notice a bigger benefit if you're in a less aerodynamic car, like an SUV or something, compared to the Model 3. The Model 3 is like one of the most aerodynamic cars you can find, except for like the Ioniq 6.
0.21 drag coefficient.
Yeah, now drag coefficient also is not the only number that matters. The frontal surface area also matters. You have to multiply that by the coefficient to get your total drag. But anyway, so keeping up with traffic may not, you know, hurt your efficiency as much as you'd expect based on like lab tests, because lab tests are always done with no drafting. It's not the real world. You know, and the next point's not going to surprise a lot of experienced road trippers as well, but like, we really were shocked by how quickly the car charged. You know, when I bought the car, I thought I would be a little bit more envious of the Ioniqs with their 18-minute fast charging. That would be cool still, like, it'd be cool.
No, it is cool.
Can confirm it's cool.
It's super cool.
It's super
If I can
cool.
find a good one.
You have superchargers,
You
you have
don't-
super cool.
With you don't have time to go that restaurant. in
That's the thing,
Binghamton,
we were
that
like
Italian
sometimes like-
restaurant in Binghamton.
So one time,
No,
we did a speed
It's
run of
an
the
hour.
Cheesecake
It's a
Factory.
sit-down place.
Okay, I was playing in the car, my other friend ran inside the restaurant, got us a table. We already looked at the menu while we were in the car. He ordered our food before we even got there. We sat down, got our food, ate, ordered our cheesecake while we're still eating our meal, paid our bill while we're eating our cheesecake, and then run back to the car and it's at 95%. Like, and we pulled in, that was the lowest we got the car. We were actually deliberately trying to get the battery as low as possible because we couldn't freaking get it below 10% as hard as we tried. Because the car will tell you what you're gonna arrive with, and we found that that was actually usually pretty pessimistic. Like a lot of the time you'd get slowed down by slow people in the left lane, and then that would add a bunch, like several more percents back. But we managed to get it down to 6% once, and then went up to 95% while we were in the Cheesecake Factory. So that was a nice stop. But my other two friends aren't like super into EVs, and I think one of them now definitely wants a Tesla. But and I'm like a huge EV nerd, and I was still surprised by how fast it charged in the real world, because like you start your first leg of the trip, you're like fully charged. You can drive for like 4 hours or whatever. By then you're like sick of being in the car, honestly. You go for a coffee break. This was literally like our first day, right? We drive a few hours, we go for a coffee break, we get back in the car, we drive for a couple more hours, and we have lunch. And then the lunch is by definition gonna be like a longer stop. You can't like wolf down your lunch that quickly. By the time you're back at the car, like
So
it's
where
about 80% again.
was the first charging stop?
I don't remember it. It's all blurred together. It was somewhere in New York State. It was like somewhere past Syracuse, but I can't remember how much. further.
Binghamton, like that Italian restaurant?
I don't know. We stopped at like a service station with a coffee machine.
Just for those, like, I've done this trip 4 times. If you go down to Binghamton, now they have 2 others around Binghamton, but for the last 4 years, they have a great Italian restaurant.
I think
You'll never work
that
in
might
another
have been where we had
because
lunch
it takes a
and
good hour
went
to
to the
sit down,
Panera.
order, eat your meal, and pay and get out.
So some restaurants we saw when we did the trip in 2017, they actually give you a discount if you have a Tesla, so it's, yeah.
The other observation we had was about like the importance of hotel charging. I think having a car that charges really fast really changes the equation with that. Now, like, don't get me wrong, it'd be great for hotels to have more charging, but like one of the issues with hotel charging is like, they're only gonna have so many spots. Like, what if they get taken up? It's like you can't plan your trip to depend on it. You know what I mean? And it turns out, if it's there, it's a nice perk. But there was actually one hotel that had charging that we stopped at, but they were going to charge us $10 for it, and we were like, no, we have free supercharging.
I'll just say, like, having done this and being in your shoes doing that, the biggest problem, they have those EV chargers, and usually close the door, not always, but people don't care.
Yeah,
They'll
people just
park their
park.
Dodge Rams in there, you go inside the hotel clerk, and some minimum wage worker doesn't really
Yeah,
care one way or the
Exactly.
other.
Yeah, so the only really reliable place where you're going to get charging is a hotel that has valet parking, and then you're paying for valet parking. So, but anyway, what we found worked is on your last kind of stop of the day coming into town, wherever you're going to stay, plug in for a bit, then park the car at, let's say like 50% or higher, which is not hard to achieve. And then the next morning, just get out of bed, you get in the car, like let's say you're doing a multi-day road trip, right? Drive for a couple of hours until you want to get your breakfast and coffee, and then plug the car in again. And you're not going to really lose very much time at all. All right, the fun part. So remember how I said the point of the trip was go to the Kennedy Space Center? That's like partway down Florida near Orlando. My friend Alex needed another taste of Miami. Okay, we were in the car, and he was joking about going to Miami again, and I was like, "No, that's not possible." Like, we're like scheduled to like come in here, Titusville, go to the Space Center the next day, and then start heading back north again. We had a NASCAR race to catch, so I'm like, "No way, we have time for that." Not if we don't sleep.
Oh, to be 20.
So, hey, I'm almost 30.
I mean, I'm
Still in your twenties.
I was going to say, yeah, so
Didn't sleep. Didn't sleep.
exactly.
It's showing.
Yeah, so there's this particular nightclub we wanted to go to, and Steve Aoki was doing a concert, so we're like, we have to go there. And so we like arrived in Titusville, which is near Orlando, kind of our scheduled time. I think it was like 7 or 8 or something like that. And I realized I didn't have like shoes nice enough to go to this club, so we plug the car into a supercharger that's next to a Target, run inside. I grab the first shoes that are on the shelf, buy them, grab something to eat, run back, eat it, car's ready. And then we drove. Okay, people in Florida don't seem to care at all about the speed limit. Like, seriously. Especially near the Miami area. I mean, hey, it's Vice City. What's some speeding in the town that was founded on cocaine trade or whatever? So we got to torture test the car. We cruised at 90 miles an hour. Just that's the maximum the cruise control even lets you go. Because we were trying to make it to the club on time, and other people were going even faster than us. And we saw incredible stats with the car. Okay, we couldn't believe it. Now part of it was 30 degrees out, and it was really humid, which actually makes the air less dense, which is kind of counterintuitive. There's water in the air, but humid air is actually less dense than dry air. So we were going through very thin air, and there was other traffic in front of us going the same speed as us. So we got a bit of a drafting effect. But that said, we were still pretty surprised that driving 145 kilometers an hour, a lot of the time, our average across the whole trip was 134 kilometers an hour, because of random slowdowns and stuff. Still, like 134 in Ontario would be crazy already, and that was our average speed. And we got 185 watt-hours per kilometer, which would give the car over 400 kilometers of range.
You know this is recorded, right?
And on YouTube.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
This is all alleged.
Okay, so
Are they gonna extradite me with us?
This is.
When you come to the part where the state troopers stopped you, like, yeah.
Oh no, they didn't care, man. Like we when we were leaving Miami, we saw some cops that on the highway and drive like they were in GTA, like weaving around each other for fun. Like it's
So supercars in real life.
it's different.
I don't know, like I've been stopped by the state troopers down there, and once you're stopped and you've got those Ontario plates, it's not a fun thing. Believe me, I'll tell you a story another night.
And you need to pay on the spot or
Cash?
they take you to jail if not jail, but like, court.
Yeah, another reason.
And if it's the weekend,
You just don't want to be stopped. Believe me, been there, done that, and I think you got away with it. You got lucky, but my advice, having been stopped by the state troopers more than once, and I used to live in.
Well, we
North Carolina.
did look up like every
You
state
don't
we were
want it.
in.
You don't
Wait,
want it.
no,
You don't
you
want
don't
it.
mess around. Like so, Florida is like I said different. We looked up the speeding fines in Florida. They're a joke. Like it was a 70 zone. We were doing 90, right? So we were 20 over. It's like $100 ticket or something like that.
It's
Give him
not,
10
it's not, it's not so much.
And there was like no like
I think
misdemeanors or
one-
anything.
This is why we should
It's not
young
so
people
much-
in the army.
It's not so much like the fees and the fines gonna pay, but the hassle and that state trooper saying, what are you doing in the United States? Where are you guys going? Why are you down here?
Oh yeah, we got the whole inspection at the border
We
thing.
wanted freedom.
so back on track.
Back on track on the.
So you went very fast for a very long time and you're impressed.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
that is
pretty much the
That is
point.
impressive.
So yeah, it was a success. Got back to Titusville at 7 a.m. So what did we conclude out of all this? EV road trips are really, really easy now and have probably been for a while, but the other thing is as the density of Tesla chargers has gone up, like now you're spoiled for options. When you're looking for where am I going to stop next on the trip, you have lots of options. So that really helps make it easy. My advice would be like, don't adapt your behavior based on the car. Just drive how you want to. Don't become a maniac like me if you don't want to, but you know what I mean? Like, I still think that part of the reason we had such a great experience was because we were in a really aerodynamic sedan. And like, I also say that based on my experience driving my Kia Soul EV, which is shaped like a brick. So that's kind of like as far away as you could get from, my two cars are truly different, right? But, so if you're in a Model Y or something, your experience would be a lot closer to the Model 3 than to the Soul. But, you know, bigger, boxier car, you're gonna notice more of a range hit on the highway. That's just the math. Like, if your drag coefficient's lower, a higher percentage of your overall drag is actually coming from rolling resistance than air drag. So as a percentage change, when your speed increases, your drag will be a lower percentage increase over your total drag. But oh yeah, another thing, just fun fact about aerodynamic drag that a lot of people get wrong is they say that it increases exponentially with speed. It doesn't. It increases to the power of 2. It increases quadratically, which is completely different from exponential growth. It's much slower than exponential growth. It's faster than linear growth, but it's not the same thing. So when you go from 120 to 130, it's, you know, mathematically like not that big that you might expect if you were actually thinking it was exponential growth.
What would you guess, percentage of the time were you drafting when you, with your high-speed Florida driving?
Like half-ish, something like that. Yeah.
How far would you say, when you're saying dropping, how many car lengths would you say you're behind?
So a lot of it was using the car's automated like
Yeah.
radar cruise control. So the car was deciding the distance
Yeah.
for me, and it does increase the distance the faster you're
Sure.
going.
Sure.
I feel like it's really hard to accurately
Can you
count
put it on the
distance when
closest
you're
setting, I assume?
on the highway. Yeah.
Even the-
Sometimes it was on setting 2. Sometimes we put it 3 or 4. Kind of depends on,
I just noticed.
like, if we were wanting to stay behind somebody, we'd usually crank it up to like at least 4. Just because we wanted a bit more distance. If we were like more like we're in traffic, we're waiting for this person to get out of our way, then we put it up to 2. So they don't feel like, you know, we didn't tailgate people. Like, I don't believe in doing that, but I do think like sometimes you do have to get a little closer so that they realize you want to keep going. And I don't like passing people on the right either. I feel safe doing that. But yeah, people down like on the road trip, I did feel were generally pretty good. I feel like if you're polite to other people, they're more likely to be polite to you. People who tailgate, and I observed this a lot. I observed a lot of people tailgating, and then the person in front would stick in front of them like to spite them.
Right.
But that didn't happen to us because we weren't tailgating people. People generally moved out of our way.
Now, you say it's more efficient when you're dropping and all that. How do you know that? Do you actually have it, were you actually looking at the data? Because I've done this before.
Mhm.
And in my experience, it's not really worth it. In my experience, you have to get pretty close to really notice a change in the amount of energy you're saving.
Yeah.
And so I just
It's
like,
not-
it's
it's like
it's not
actually,
worth it to get that close.
Like yesterday, I did a round trip drive to Kingston. And on my way back was quite a bit more drafting than the way there.
Mhm.
And my consumption only differed by like 7 watt-hours per kilometer or something like that.
Are you also running? Back?
But the other part of that is a really aerodynamic car like a Model 3 is going to have less of a benefit from drafting. Like when I was in my Kia Soul, and I used to take that on the highway more before I had the Tesla, when I first had the car, I would like drive slow in the right lane and I wouldn't get any drafting benefit. And I would usually get like 20-ish kilowatt-hours per 100 kilometer. And eventually I started just going in the left lane and driving behind other people. And my consumption was like basically the same. But that car's a brick. So with that type of car, I think you will get a big difference. It's more so like your consumption can be the same, but you're traveling faster, which is a nice benefit.
Like, Lawrence, one of the things you mentioned here is charging at 95%. Just from my experience doing what you've done, I just find that time going from 80 to 95% is it's the same thing, it's going from about 10 to.
But he was eating a meal anyways, right?
Yeah, we were like at an actual restaurant, but
But if you're just trying to get somewhere to point A to point B.
you know, most our stops, the length of the charge really varied, like depending on what we were doing. If it was a lunch or dinner stop, then actually we'd end up with a big charge. But if it was a coffee break or a pee break, there was one time where we pulled in to a charger at like pretty low, and we plugged in for literally 4 minutes, and it gave us enough juice to drive another hour.
But I think one
Because
of
we were at the bottom of
the
the.
takeaways that, you know, is
Yeah.
that given the number of Tesla chargers and there's so much availability, you don't really have to be worrying, saying, oh, I'm gonna try optimize everything from 20 to 80.
And we
and
were
stop.
more so like than optimizing for travel time, we would be like, oh, I want one that's next to a Costco or
Right.
something, or I want one.
You have that density now.
And you know, you have the ability to just choose like what amenities you actually want.
It was like that always, believe me.
That would be, if I could sort of jump in here for a sec, because I did this trip a year and a half ago, and in a Model Y. So a couple of points just to sort of give the counter. I think everything you've said, I agree with. I mean, was a little more because it's a Model Y. The one thing I was surprised at, though, weight didn't seem to manage affect much. Like I had 4 people in the car, and it doesn't really use that much more. Like the car is so heavy and the batteries are so heavy and all of that, whether I'm driving with 1 person or 4 people doesn't affect the different how much you're burning. Now, if you're pulling something or you have something outside or whatever, that all affects your range and all of that. But the number of people or how much you have in the car is very minor effect.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
what I've seen.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
as far as go ahead.
the car, you know, already weighs like 4,000 pounds, so
Yeah.
adding a couple of people in is not a huge
At
percentage
speed,
increase.
it's thermodynamics.
And then at a high speed, it's like 2/3 of your drives coming from the arrow and not the rolling distance anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the one thing, as far as the drafting, the only place I've really noticed the drafting make a huge difference is behind an 18-wheel truck. If I draft behind an 18-wheel truck, you can look at the graph and you can really see the sort of the amount of energy use go down. But I don't find enough behind other vehicles to make that you really save much. But I had the exact same experience. That when we
Get really
drove,
good range out of a Fiat 500 EV by going behind a semi and then putting it into neutral and just having it suck it.
Get a grapple hook and just.
Use that BMW technology.
yeah.
All right,
Let's be honest, that's not.
any more comments or questions before we move on?
I was just gonna say one more. As far as when we were going, we had 4 people, and we like to do lots of washroom breaks and all of that. So we probably stopped more than you did because we like to do lots of washroom breaks. And I never once the entire time there and back ever waited for the car to charge because, you know, by the time we were done our washroom break, it was always, you know, and we would often get up to like 80%, even though we didn't want to go that high necessarily. Like it was just, as I say, at the time we all got in the car, got through the washroom, the car was usually at 80% before we would, you know, be ready to go ourselves. So that's, yeah, and that was a year and a half ago, and there's more stations coming online all the time.
So Sam,
Okay. Quick question. You did mention it was free charging and all that. How much would a trip like that cost if you would be paying the 80 cents a kilowatt day charge?
Good question. So I looked at the prices on some of the superchargers we were at, just so I know. And I never saw 80 cents. I don't know where that is, but
I can show you.
a lot of the ones that I looked at were typically like 40 cents for the peak rate or 20 if you're off peak. A lot of the superchargers had like peak off peak pricing.
It's state by state.
But if you go by the 40-cent figure, then my math said that we were about 70% the cost of if you were driving like a Toyota Prius. So
Really?
like even something pretty economical. And also keep in mind, like, I don't think the Prius would even do that well driving the way we drove. Like
No.
we drove, well, you know,
Yeah.
and And the math actually works out the 165 watts per kilometer, that's equivalent to 125 mpge. Which is a figure that I only ever use for comparing electric cars to gas cars, how impressive they are, but 125, like that's like double the best I could ever do in a Prius if I was trying really, really hard to drive efficiently.
Priuses. Let's go speed.
If I can make one last comment, when we had our 2013 Model S, if you did 100 on the highway, you would average about 190 watt hours per kilometer. At 100. We're doing 1.5. 100,
Yeah.
190 watt hours
I exceeded or
So 100 kilometers an hour.
at 100 kilometers.
was beating that efficiency going 145.
Yeah.
Well, okay, not for the whole stretch, but
That's amazing.
but still.
Mall 3 is a lot more efficient.
It's been more than 6 months, so I can talk about that.
Okay, we can talk about this after the round.
I did like 95 miles an hour a lot of the time coming back from
South
South
Carolina.
Carolina. And even then, even with a car that's charged at 120 kilowatts and, got way worse efficiency, it was still just like the car waiting for me more than I waited for it. So it's like nowadays it's a joke.
I think that's another interesting takeaway point because, people were joking about, you can't charge nearly as fast as an ion. So what is the average charge rate,
Goes into 250.
I don't know. I never like
Maybe
measured
100
that.
kilowatts?
It'd be more than that.
45 is pretty normal.
50-ish.
Yeah, but the charge curve goes down.
245 is
It
pretty
definitely
It doesn't,
feels like,
it doesn't stay flat, it goes down, right?
yeah, well, the Tesla charge curve is never flat at all. It's like, you
Is that 95 to 28?
The peak number doesn't matter, it's the curve that's.
So what my experience is between maybe 10 to 40%.
Yeah.
You get really, really fast charging, but then it starts dropping more or less linear.
The Ionic is a more of a flat curve.
Okay, so what would you estimate the average to be in the Tesla?
I'd say 22 minutes would give you about 400.
The model. So what is the, okay, maybe it doesn't matter, because
That's that kind of.
yeah, because my point was that I think, or certainly it sounds like for Tesla, that the charge rate is more than fast enough for normal usage.
Yeah.
Right, because we know that 50 kilowatts kind of sucks, it's not so good. But my point is, I don't think we necessarily need 350, because you weren't on a bunch of 350 kilowatt chargers,
So
right?
let me answer the question a different way. My opinion is 100 kilowatt or more is fine.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
doesn't need to be that much.
For me, when I've done some math, I figured it was 150. 150 was the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And then
But-
more,
Above 150.
Like
it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Like I've been telling people about my trip to PEI, when we went to PEI, we would go to, usually it's in Irving Supercenter down there, right? Plug the car, go in the restaurant, get a table, order the meal. I have to move the car before I got my meal.
Right,
So really, it's almost too fast, really,
Yeah.
right?
right.
So,
Yeah.
and what I would do often is I had it to go to 80%. And if I wanted to stay in the restaurant a bit more, I would increase that. So I wouldn't pay the island fees, right?
I'll play devil's
Except
advocate.
now, Tesla's got-
We'll talk about all this in a
At the round table.
Raymond, I'm waiting for
It's
your
8:20 already.
report on UK.
all right, let's find out about Raymond's trips.
Okay, so let's go through that. So, this one on the left here is not electric, obviously, right, but that was in the lobby and the rest of the hotel we were at. But anyway, so I went to the UK for about 25 days. And of course, I was looking for EVs all over the place, right? I thought I took a lot more pictures of EVs than I did. I did take a lot, but not as much as I thought. But anyway, but I'll give you a sense of how many EVs there are. So in London, this is an old cab that you're seeing here, okay? I'd say 50% or so of the cabs are already converted to electric. They look a bit more modern and they're electric. It's great. They're silent, they're fast, they're smooth. So the other thing I saw in London is the car you see behind here is the Kia Niro electric, right? I think they shipped all the friggin' Niros that they had to London. It's unbelievable how many I've seen hundreds, literally hundreds. They were everywhere in London. Okay. So we did a lot of stuff, right? Went to Brighton, which some people may know where it is, but see there's an i3 here. Lots of i3s. Again, never seen an i3. I probably saw 100 i3s. Yeah. Here, you see one once in a while, but there I saw them everywhere. Okay.
Volkswagen Buzz.
Yeah, so this is an ID bus that I saw in Brighton, right? So that's one that I saw. Then, in London, of course, this is not electric in the middle here. That's a pedal power, right? And of course, I took pictures of other cars, which is kind of cool cars, but look at this one here. Electric powered ice cream. What more can you get, right? Ice cream and electric power, right?
Yeah, but it's not a white van.
No. But they had several of these all over London that were electrically powered, so it was pretty cool to see. Going on the road a bit more, just an example, there's charging stations everywhere, so you see some here. And I took a picture from quite far away, right? So it's not, you see there's a Leaf back here. Mike's favorite truck. And actually, one of the first cars I saw was an NX30 again. I thought I had taken a picture, but I can't find it.
It's probably the best.
But I saw an NX30.
Didn't make it back.
So, anyways, so more stuff. So in Cardiff, buses. These are 3 different electric buses that I saw within minutes. Okay,
Fully
lots and
electric?
lots. Full electric, yeah.
Right,
Double decker?
no.
Not here.
Left? No.
Not here. We'll see in others. But see, it says I'm the difference. So they're really pushing them and really.
Well, the purple one's not BYD, but
there may be a BYD in there. There's
yeah,
not
it says-
BYD.
Yeah, it's BYD.
BYD. There were some, definitely there were BYD, but I didn't take care of that too much, or didn't check. So I wanted to show that you guys might have seen on Facebook that I kissed a Rodney Stone, so you're in deep trouble now, okay? It gives the gift of the gab apparently if you kiss it, but anyways, the reason I put.
boy.
Well, you already had that gift.
So the reason I put the blinding broadcast is because I saw this here, this is the
Don't tap the screen.
Screen, please.
oops, so that's the color that they have in Europe, it's
Arrest,
intense red or something?
arrestable red.
Ultra red.
Yeah, ultra red.
It's not, it's Europe, it's just shipping on the new Model 3.
But no, they've had it for a while in Europe.
Oh.
They had it for a while, and on the Model Ys, and it's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. It looks a lot better than the red that I have. It's a lot deeper. So, anyways, what was the?
Nothing.
Oh, I was saying, I think you're thinking of cherry red, because there's 3 different reds that Tesla
Oh
sold.
my god.
And the cherry one was exclusive to Europe because they were shipping it out of the Berlin factory.
Yeah.
But the ultra red that you see on the Model 3 there is coming to us. It's just only going to be on the 2024 and future.
Okay.
Model 3.
Okay. But anyways, the color is so much nicer in my opinion. Anyways, so of course, ID 5s are in there, right? This is a beautiful car here on the right, isn't it?
You're looking, but gotta get those eyes checked.
Now, I did not see that many Ionic 5s. I was surprised. I did not see
Because they're
that.
all in the parking lot here downstairs.
I saw a lot of EV6s though. I saw a lot of EV6s, but not that many Ionic 5s for whatever reason. I don't know why. So, feed the sheep, right? So there's lots of freaking sheep in the UK. Okay? Sorry, sheep, it's unbelievable. But anyways, I found this ID3. So, I've talked about the ID3 before. Beautiful little car. It's like the ID4, but smaller, more compact, right? I wish they would sell it here, but they do not, unfortunately. Windmills everywhere. Okay, so everywhere we went in the UK, there's windmills everywhere. Okay, it happens that there's a moratorium on onshore wind that's been in effect for a couple of years in the UK. But they still have lots and lots and lots of windmills. They have lots of onshore wind also, but I saw lots of them. And one of the reasons I took the picture is I want to compare this to, nuclear plant or gas plant and show that it's not that ugly, right? I mean, to me, they're not that ugly compared to, especially to other things you would see along your road. Giant's Causeway. You've heard of Giant's Causeway? There's these funny shaped, hexagonal shaped rocks there. Really cool place to go. They've got an electric bus. So they got a shuttle bus from the interpretation center down to the rocks. And it's electrified.
I
So
was thinking, I think it's a curve.
what's that?
Looks like it has a
Looks
flat.
like it's a flat tire.
I think it's.
No, it doesn't have a flat tire.
Oh, it's the curve to.
Yeah, there's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and they have several of these shuttle.
Yeah, there's a curb to let people board.
Yes, yeah. So anyways, nice and quiet and not smoke or anything, right? It was great. Belfast, a couple of things. So this is at our hotel. There were a few charging points. This here, this is the only picture I have of an electric cab. From the inside of it, this is Anne, one of our companions that was there. Anyways, in Belfast, they had obviously some there, right? Actually, no, I'm not sure if that came from Belfast or not, but anyways, whatever. Electric cab, electric bus, double decker here. Okay, well, here too, right? And anyways, this here, it's kind of hard to see here, but it's one of the BMWs. I took it by accident. My real picture, you see.
For those who are online who can't see where he's pointing on the screen, it's the lower right corner of the lower right picture. There's a piece of glass rear windshield that is apparently an EV.
Yeah, the whole picture shows it a bit better, but it's a BMW EV. I think it's a 98 or something. Anyways. But lots and lots of EVs all over the place. BYD.
Oh,
nice.
BYD, okay.
did you see a lot of them there?
I didn't notice that many, but I noticed a few. This was one of them. BYD buses, I noticed a few. This is the post, right?
What
says information
there? Like what bake?
Peugeot.
It's no, it's something else, I think.
I can't make out the icon.
Oh, no, it's it's the,
Is that a Chinese make?
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's actually full electric.
oh yeah, it looks like a Daewoo.
It's something like that, yeah, but I'm not sure if it's full electric, but I did see
Well, that's
some
their
DHLs.
Yeah.
I did see some DHL vans. I saw lots of e-transits, lots and lots of e-transits all over the UK. One thing is, this is a reproduction of a car that the
Rolls Royce.
Eagles.
the Beatles had, right? It's a Rolls, and this is in Liverpool, right? And this here is I don't think it's a full electric, but the green there on the plate, that denotes that it's a plug-in of some sort.
Okay.
Right,
You
and
can
that,
tell by the plate in the UK then.
well, some of them, not all of them, okay? It depends on the plate. Anyways, this is the Mocha from Peugeot. Very nice little car, very, very nice little car. Anyways, so Glasgow now, so that's a electric bus, obviously. It says carbon, the car is stripped out. Bon voyage.
And a TARDIS.
Cool.
Is the TARDIS electric?
And a TARDIS, yes.
Of course the TARDIS is electric.
It would have to be, so there were. a few
Wibbly wobbly,
TARDISes.
timey-wimey stuff.
In Glasgow, there's a few TARDISes, and we went actually just to take a picture of this one, so.
So you didn't go in it?
No.
I hear they're bigger on the inside.
Anyways, St. Andrews, so this is a van that has a service that will go and charge your car, okay? And here, I believe this is a Taycan here on the left.
Oh, that's the screen, it's great.
It's a
A
Taycan?
what, a Titan?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Titan.
I saw so many of them, it's unbelievable. I saw it in London especially, I saw a lot of them.
Did you go golfing in this end?
I did not go, I'm not a golfer.
It's only $300.
Just,
We have to go.
Yeah, but you have to buy your tickets 3 days in advance, and it's a raffle, and you
Oh.
register, and there's like a 20% chance that you get tickets in the next 2 days.
So some of the guys that, a couple that were on the trip with us, they went back after and it was pouring rain, so they still lost. Because I guess they paid for it.
Or
St. Andrews because St. Andrews because of this there.
Yeah. So here I just, this is a long distance thing, but this is, Shell, right? No, sorry, that's BP, with a bunch of charging stations.
Every branded test.
No.
So what type of connector are those fast chargers?
CCS2.
Yes, it's type 2 in Europe.
Okay.
They've been
They're
selling
the same as mainland Europe.
They've been selling theirs for years on the same connectors.
Even Tesla uses CCS2.
Yes.
Yeah, I know
The
that.
car has that on the car, right? I saw many of those, but, so this is Marcel's next car?
Nice.
No, mine's gonna be bigger.
That's gonna be
It's
big.
gonna be long.
He's gonna have the longer
That's
wheelbase.
a short wheelbase. The back door is the same size as the front door, but I want a bigger back door.
Anyways, it's Knight's fine jewelry, the Knight's bullion, and it was, I thought it was kind of cool, but anyways, it's
It's like a
a.
gold wrap for,
Yeah.
you can do that, gold wrap?
Yeah,
It looks dope.
Actually got to see though.
Yeah.
Anyways, in London, okay, so in London, when you came back to London,
Yeah.
And the wheels are on.
when we came back to London, we spent an evening and a morning walking around, and the number of, so we were in Kensington. The number of EVs we saw was just out of this world. There's actually areas of Kensington, I swear, 30% of the cars driving by were electric. It was unreal, okay? This is a park that they have in Holland Park, they call it, in Kensington. So they had a Leaf and they had a BZ4X, right?
But downtown London, they have restrictions, don't they?
Yes, they do. So that's one of the reasons there's so many
That
EVs,
makes it
right?
really popular.
Yeah, so again, in London, this one is, what is this one? It's an MG. Yeah, so lots of MGs. So by the way, for those who remember, Matt Eglin, okay? We actually spent about 2 hours with him in York, I think it was. He has a car like this, but his is a funky orange.
You didn't take a picture of, really?
No, I didn't. And then, actually, I didn't even take a picture of him and his girlfriend.
Oh, Raymond, you have to go back.
So I'm taking
Yeah.
pictures, we're walking around, taking pictures of everything around, but never took a picture.
Next time you go bring me, I'll remember.
Yeah, back on the plane for you.
Anyways, so an
Don't do it
MG,
right.
I can again,
Again,
right? Many of those in
Robin
Kensington.
Egg Blue.
This is an Audi. This is a Model X. Another Model X that's a few doors down. You wouldn't believe, I've never seen such a Model X.
That street is like the kind of street where.
Yes.
If you live on that street, money's no object.
That whole area is very, very pricey, right? What's this one here? That's a EQB. QB,
Yeah, it's small. It's
Mercedes, right? And again, an electric bus. And, okay, so now that's the EVs, okay, but in the UK, for those who know the British sense of humor, they make a lot of puns, right? And a lot of funny signs. So anyway, so I have a bit of a collection of funny signs. So this one here, it's saying that the dogs are welcome with their friendly owners. So in the UK, the dog comes into the restaurant as much as the person. They'll have bowls with water for them, but dogs go everywhere, right? Here they have ice cream for dogs. Okay? But I would want to have ice cream for dogs. It's probably not good for the dog, but anyways, so ice cream for a dog. They have a fat burning factory. They have art is just a fart that doesn't give an F.
Nice.
That's kind of like this everywhere. Okay, this one is the 3 tons. So I thought that was funny. Follow your nose, buns are very close. So this is a buns place. And then this is for you, Mike.
Nice.
This is a small railway with a steam engine that they're running it with
You can
volunteers.
repurpose that sign for EVCO.
So,
The mustache is strong.
anyways, Slug and Lettuce. This is a little eating place.
Yep. Lots of slugs.
And then a wee taste of something, right?
Taste.
This here is a king. I think the picture is reversed. It's
The old.
yeah, it's one of the kings that, see, that's his head.
Oh,
So one of the kings was beheaded,
charming.
and I can't remember which one it is. But anyway, so there's a few
It's
problems with
cake.
that. You say what?
Cake.
Cake?
That's
Blood
where
blood pudding
France. I know.
Blood pudding.
I know it's France.
let them eat cake.
Blood pudding is what
Let
that's.
them eat cake. Never mind. It was a Marie Antoinette show.
Here's is the answer, but I can't remember the question.
Yeah.
And then there she goes. There she glows. Sorry, there she glows.
She blows.
She glows. So that
Oh, there
was
she blows.
Yeah. That was in Scotland. And then the shop that nobody that should not be named. This is
Harry Potter.
one of the Harry Potter things, right? And then of course there were Harry Coos.
Oh, very good.
I got 2 and a baby
The list
Harry
is
Coo
fake.
and puppies. I had to put a puppy picture.
Oh,
in.
there you
So anyways, any questions?
go. Very cool.
No.
It was a great trip, lots of fun.
Just a question, like you mentioned BYD, and I've seen those big signs in Germany, and they seem to do a lot of big marketing push in Europe, and like it seems like they haven't really hit it like the same way like you might see like other electric vehicles in the UK. Like the cheap Chinese cars that you keep on
There are
hearing.
several in the UK. The
Yeah,
BYD is
but
one.
not like the.
The MG?
Yeah,
The MG?
it's the BYD.
There's a lot of MGs. I saw a lot of
The
MGs.
UK government is a little hostile towards EVs right now.
Yeah,
'Cause they're
yeah.
conservative.
They actually rolled back some of their, they were.
That's probably why there's more in mainland Europe than UK.
So they were supposed to ban gas cars in 2030, and they rolled it back to 2035.
Yeah.
So anyways,
They're doing the conservative thing.
yeah.
It's stupid.
But that being said, there were a lot of
A lot of
EVs,
MGs, a lot of
Everywhere.
BYDs.
a lot of BYDs, a lot of European brands, so Peugeots and all those.
Well, I have a question. How did you
I
get
don't
around?
care, whatever.
Did you take a train or did you?
We were in a bus too.
You were on a bus?
Yeah, and the bus was diesel, yes.
I didn't ask.
Found the one diesel bus in.
There are builders of buses in Europe that are starting to make electric buses, and I think it's just a matter of time. A couple of reasons for that. One of them is that the legislations there, the regulations for driving impose limits on how long you could drive. It's like 5 hours. And then you have to have a half-hour stop, which is just about exactly what you need to charge the thing, right? So the regulations are very favorable to electric.
People are asking about, was it expensive to charge?
I did not check how much it cost.
Oh, there you go.
So one thing I will tell you though, so I talked to Matt, and of course, he's got a house there, right? What he was telling me is the cost of electricity was 40 pence a kilowatt hour. So that's about the equivalent of 70 Canadian cents a kilowatt hour.
Mhm.
Well, think about that. When people tell you electricity is expensive here, it's
You don't
not.
have electric dryers in the UK. You hang your clothes on the clothesline,
Well, probably, yeah. So what he's doing is
even in the rain.
he's got,
Solar and wind.
so he's put some solar on his house, and he's put some batteries also in his house. And actually, I'd like him to talk to us about the economics of that, because it's, electricity is so much more expensive.
Well, it's easier to justify when your electricity is 80 cents a kilowatt hour than when it's 2.8
Absolutely.
cents a kilowatt
Absolutely.
hour.
Yeah. And everything else is expensive too, right? So there's, and
Well, Brexit worked out really well for them, so. Didn't make any
What was
difference.
gas when you were there? How much would you pay for a liter of gas when you were there?
man, you think I really looked?
So when I was in England, the gas price, the number was the same as what we pay, but it was in pounds per,
Pounds, which are almost twice.
which are about twice the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, so that's what I saw, somewhere around 160, 170.
So it's like 160 pounds per liter instead of dollars.
Yeah, so
That's what I remember from.
Yeah, so it's literally about twice.
You guys know there's this thing called Google,
You can Google it.
and you'll know exactly what it is.
Let me Google that for you.
But yeah, it's about twice. Any other questions, comments?
No?
Okay. Lawrence, your turn for the news.
Surprise news time. It's not me.
That's a surprise.
That's a surprise.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, for one.
Surprise!
Surprise, you were
Mixing it
supposed
up.
to hear.
You have
Changing
to,
it
I was supposed to be at a baseball game, but thunderstorm happened.
Well, I see sunny skies. I don't know what you're.
Well, Little League, they play by their own rules.
And a tornado warning, right?
there.
Watch, it was a watch.
It was a watch.
This morning.
No, we did get for Prescott Russell. There
Yeah, we're
was
not
a
in
warning.
Prescott.
It is on yet.
But,
Each side.
take it away, Lawrence.
all right, I'm gonna jump into the news.
News you use.
So starting with something for a bit of levity, but Hertz tried charging a renter of one of their Model 3s $277 for dropping off the car not charged enough. And what makes this really funny is that the customer had paid for the skip the pump option on the rental, so they were supposed to be entitled to drop the car off empty and not pay anything extra. And so they contacted customer support, and support basically told them like, too bad, which was obviously just like incompetence, but, and then after this, went to the media, Hertz refunded the customer. But like, the reason I put this story in is just to show like how clueless these rental companies still are with EVs. You'd think they would have learned something after, all those headlines about them selling off their EV fleet. The issue is they're charging a premium for these cars, right? If you go to look to rent a car, at least when I did, the cost to rent an EV is higher than renting a basic car. But and so it's not very appealing because they're not doing anything to entice you to pay that higher price, but they could have on-site charging stations so that you can just drop the car off empty and not pay anything extra because electricity is cheap. And if you had a rental where it's like basically the cost of fuel is bundled with the rental, that would make paying that higher price for the rental more appealing. It would make the rentals more profitable for them. And it would, make their fleet more profitable. But they don't do that. Instead, they make the customer experience with renting even very poor because they put the whole burden of charging on you and then charge you exorbitant fees if there's, maybe not a charger in a convenient location to top up before you drop the car off. So they're not making the experience good, and then they're wondering why it's not working.
It's like corporate incompetence.
Yeah.
So you pay for gas twice in a car that doesn't use gas.
Yep.
A story that came out about, nothing surprising, but like car companies are still trying to sabotage or at least slow down the EV transition. Most likely just because they have to make all these capital expenditures and investments to transition, and they want to slow that stuff down. It does seem like car makers are a bit more keen on moving to electric than like oil companies, obviously. Like oil companies obviously don't want anything to change. Car companies are putting in some effort, but maybe not as much as we'd like. And you can see as well, according to this report, that the Japanese car makers were the worst. They're really, really dragging their feet. And you can see kind of in this chart that shows what the manufacturers think they're going to be selling by 2030 as a percentage of their fleet. So I think like blue was all electric green's all electric, blue's like plug-in hybrids or something like that. And Tesla's the only one that's 100% electric projected.
Surprise.
Like what's really going to dictate this is the adoption curve, and these companies are going to have to really adapt or die, because what's not shown on this chart is all the Chinese companies that are going to come and eat their lunch if they don't adapt. That's what's going to happen. I mean, of course, they're going to have tariffs and stuff. That's one of our next news items. So Kia unveils the EV3, pretty exciting. Unfortunately, they haven't confirmed the pricing or even confirmed if it's coming to North America. We've seen sometimes with Kia products, like with the Kia Soul EV, that they come to Canada but not the US. So if it's not coming to the US, maybe we'll be lucky in Canada. So that's something to hope for. It's kind of looks like aimed to be a replacement of the Niro EV. Kia says they're going to keep selling the Niro for a while, and these are going to coexist for some period of time. We don't know how long. It comes with two different battery options, 58.3 and 81.4 kilowatt hours. Even in Kia's press release, they didn't specify whether this was usable or gross. I'm going to assume it's gross, because usually that's what they say. Like when they say the EV6 has 77 kilowatt hours, they're saying the gross number, not the usable. So you can expect it'll probably be like 55 and 78 or something like that kilowatt hours usable, which is decent, especially on the long range one. That's quite generous.
They're advertising 560 kilometer range.
WLTP.
Yeah.
600.
WLTP, but yeah, like you should be able to like slam this thing on the highway and get 500 kilometers.
And I heard that V2L adapters work with it too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yep, and it has, of course, like the V2L, like all the other eGMPs. Now, unfortunately, one thing it doesn't have in common with the EV6 and some of the other eGMP cars is the 800 volt architecture and super fast charging. Well, actually, I don't know about the 800 volt thing, like at least not officially.
It doesn't.
It probably doesn't, but like when I read their press release, they didn't say what the voltage is
No,
about.
but they said the charging time and the amount.
But the charging time suggests that it's probably 400 volts. But a good time to remind people that 800 volt does not inherently mean faster charging, because all the battery actually cares about is the C rating.
Yeah.
If you make the battery, if you put more of the cells in series and make the voltage higher, each cell is actually going to be seeing the same voltage. The cells don't care. But higher voltage does help you sometimes get faster charging, because it means that the amperage you have to put through the charging cable is lower to get the same amount of power. And so it's good for that. It's good for making the charging infrastructure more affordable. Some of the internal wires of the car can be thinner. That saves some weight, saves some money. But the peak charging rate of the current eGMP cars like EV6 is about 250 kilowatts. That's actually the same as the peak charging rate on the Tesla Model 3, but the Tesla Model 3 doesn't hold it for as long. Anyhow, yeah, they're all, I think that covers basically it.
At
31 minutes and 80% with,
At 100 to 128 kilowatts, it's pretty fast. It's
Yeah,
faster than Niro, so it's.
yeah, and I did also do the math. So for the amount of energy you're adding on those packs in 30 minutes, the charging curve is going to be basically completely flat. Like you're going to plug in, you're going to get around 128 kilowatts from 10 to 80% pretty much the whole time. So that's nice for some people who want consistency in charging speed. And the 10 to 80 time is similar to what you would probably see in like a Tesla. maybe a tad bit longer. The downside of this type of charging curve though is if you want to just make a 5-minute stop, if you're at the bottom of the pack on a Tesla, you'll actually get a lot in 5 minutes. Here, you won't get as much because you're not getting those high peaks at the bottom of the pack. But not everyone's going to care about that, and it's still quite good, especially with that bigger pack. It's going to get you pretty far, so you're going to want a long break.
So I added it to the buyer's guide already. Yeah, 128 kilowatts charge rate seems
Yeah.
pretty.
And like, especially if, you compare it to cars like
Estimated price in Canadian dollars is 47. It's supposed to be 35,000.
and if you're looking to upgrade from something like a Leaf, I think you're going to be extremely
Yes.
happy with
NMC.
that charging rate.
Yep.
So still on the topic of Kia, but they made some record sales numbers in the US market last month, April. And this actually happened despite their year over year. So year over year basically means you're comparing this April to last April, right? So it helps to kind of correct for seasonality in your cycles. So if sales are higher in the spring than the whatever, it accounts for that. And so compared to the past April, they were almost double. And I put a little chart up there as well, so you can see they had a bit of a slump in 2023, and then they recovered in 2024. And that was probably supply related, or also related to the $7,500 US federal incentive being dropped for the Kia cars.
What's the blue, white, and red in the church?
Those are the year.
Blue is 2022. Sorry, white is 2022. Blue is 23. Red is 24.
Okay, so that's in America. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, good one. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, they hit 5,000 per month now, and it should go up from here. If anyone was counting on the Volkswagen ID7, I have some bad news. It should still come, but it is a bit delayed from North America. And
They said it
if you want to be made even more jealous, part of the reason it's delayed, according to VW, is that they introduced a wagon version. Wow, something we don't ever see here anymore. They introduced a wagon version, and it's so popular that they're taking up all the factory capacity for European sales. Wagons really ought to make a comeback because they're more aerodynamic than an SUV. They can hold basically just as much stuff, because often, like, the only difference between a wagon and SUV is vertical space. How often are you maximizing the vertical space in your car? Are you stacking stuff in your trunk so high that you can't even see out the back window? No.
No, the biggest difference is the external and vertical height. I'm stupid. There's more ground clearance, but no more room inside.
Anyhow,
Yeah, that's a good point.
And we Volkswagen, yeah, bring the ID7 and the ID3 while you're
bring the ID7, bring the wagon version. We want to see that.
Bring us all the cars.
Bring us everything. The Buzz and the updated ID4 should still arrive this year, though, apparently. And hopefully we'll see the 7 soon. Canada is considering import tariffs on Chinese-made EVs to follow the US move. So a couple of weeks ago, President Biden quadrupled the US import tariff on EVs from China from 25% to 100%. So, oh God, that's probably going to really hurt Polestar. And yeah, ooh, yikes. And the Volvo EX30, bye-bye.
All the Volvo electrics are also made in China, and some Teslas are made in China, right? So
Yeah. Anywho, yeah, this would, probably not be wonderful for EV buyers in Canada, because a lot of our Teslas actually come from the Chinese factory. Mine did, and it had excellent build quality. Very happy I got the Chinese made one, because yeah, the Fremont factory is still maybe not perfect, but I've heard they're improving.
You should hear.
Anywho, we don't have much comment from our government yet. Trudeau said we're watching very closely what the Americans are doing and didn't really commit to anything. But it seems kind of likely they might match up to some degree, maybe not 100% tariff, but there could be some tariff to come. And the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association, as you'd expect, is advocating for Canada to impose tariffs to protect our manufacturing. Article that came out reporting on some analysis by the IEA. The vibes lie, as anyone really closely watching the space knows. There's been kind of a snowballing of media like narrative
It's
over
called
the past several
capitalism.
months. Of someone says something about, oh, EV sales growth is slowing down.
Yeah.
Okay, so the sales are declining, and that becomes like the EV slowdown. Like none of this stuff's actually happening if you look at
Yes.
the data.
It's journalism because the journalists just churn the same bullshit.
It's literally just journalists like feeding off of each other and
Yeah.
just like believing, like they've just made something up in their head.
Yep.
It's actually crazy. And honestly, because EVs are
It's more insidious than that. It's not. It's the manufacturers are putting out bullshit statements about
Some are.
why the GM is the worst of this because they couldn't make any batteries. They didn't want to admit we didn't sell any EVs because we couldn't make any batteries. They said, "Oh, it's a slowdown in sale in demand." It wasn't a slowdown in
Ford is
demand.
doing the same thing, but it's because they mispriced everything.
Yeah, that's very true, Craig. And
FUD from the oil industry.
yeah.
Yeah, anyway, journalists are churning, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a book that I started reading that's a 15-year-old book. It's
Flat Earth News.
Merchants of Doubt.
Oh, Merchants, that's a good one too.
And I would encourage you guys to read it, but it really talks about how
Yeah.
there is lots of money being spent, like we knew before, but they talk in detail about.
Yeah, if you want to learn about the faults of the media industry, Flat Earth News, which is also a 15-year-old book, it's very good.
Yeah, and anyway, for me, like as a EV nerd, it's one of the things that I follow really closely, and so I'm able to detect when the media is lying. And but seeing all of this really kind of makes me a bit worried. Like, what are the things that I see that I maybe don't question enough that are actually complete BS, just like this? I'm sure there's lots of
The
things
entire health section.
that I don't even know about. So you know,
Food.
think
Anything to
critically.
do with food is a bullshit lie. It's worse than the EVs, I swear.
Yeah, I that's another thing I know about.
So,
But
yeah, the latest lie that I saw that a lot of us took for cash was this idea that insurance adjusters were
Writing off EV.
writing off EVs more than they write off other cars. There was actually a study done that shows that that's not true.
Good.
Okay, people were rationalizing why this was happening because battery damage and all sorts of crap like that, but it turns out it is not true. Okay. But I thought it was true. It seems sensible, right? So there's a lot of stuff like that. The disinformation is so insidious that a lot of people who are promoting EVs are repeating the falsehoods.
The problem with all of this, of course, the average person hears this time and time again. And
It
we
becomes-
probably all talk
Yeah.
to these folks and they're saying, look, sales are declining, insurance is terrible. And I could go on and on, but you've heard it all before.
That's what the.
But no, it's just, it's.
yeah, and insurance
Anything
really
I can do to
depends on the
push
specific
back.
car. I mean, I think part of the story with that is just that EVs are typically more expensive cars, newer cars. So if you're comparing that to like an old Honda Civic or something,
Right.
it might not look great. I mean, like my Kia Soul EV has dirt cheap insurance though, and it's an electric car. You know, they model it a bit more, but it's,
So.
you know, a new
What's the
performance
story?
car. Anyway, I want to go and finish this news story. Yeah, so the IEA, for those that don't know, the International Energy Agency, is not really known for, you know, pushing green technology. They're a pretty like still conservative organization. They did this whole thing where they kept updating the forecast for coal consumption year after year as it kept declining, and they kept being like, oh, it's going to stop declining this year, it's going to be a straight line. And like they just did that for 20 years in a row. So like they're, if anything, like pretty pessimistic about this type of stuff. But even they're saying, yeah, like we're going to continue to see growth with electrification. Their, you know, numbers I think actually pessimistic, but it just goes to show, even if they're saying these things, you can probably rely on these numbers being a worst case scenario. But they're saying, you know, 20% sales this year, 50% by 2035.
So on the 4th of June there, I will be talking about those projections and how bad they are. So-
Yeah, and again, I'm not endorsing these projections, but just saying like, you know, because a lot of the narrative is even worse than this, and I'm saying like, you know, if you're gonna be a pessimist, at least like be above these numbers. GM is going to start recycling its scrap EV battery components. with a company founded by one of Tesla's co-founders. Tesla's actual, one of the actual co-founders, not Elon Musk. The co-founders were J.B. Straubel and
Tim Penning.
Mark Tarpenning.
Yeah.
Mark Tarpenning. Right, and Elon swooped in and gave a bunch of money
Stole
and stole
his
it.
car.
Anywho, Straubel created a company called Redwood Materials, who's been in the news before, might have been in one of our past news items. And they're taking all the old batteries, which are only really starting to surface from like first gen Leafs and the really early. So yeah, Redwood's going to be doing old batteries and also scraps that come out of the factory. Sometimes you cut stuff off the sides and whatever, you have extras, and they're going to turn those back into battery grade materials. And now time for our spicy Tesla corner story. So, I mean, I'm sure everyone's already heard this story. Elon Musk fires the entire supercharging team. The numbers, someone reminded me, not that anyone online is seeing the slides. The numbers I put in the slide may not be accurate. So look at the sources if you want more accurate information. But the real point here is Elon had asked all of the C-level executives at the company to fire some quota of staff. I think it was 20% actually. If Mike is correct, and who was the executive in charge of the not all of supercharging. It was basically like the team that does the site planning research, like technical development and stuff. They didn't fire like the assembly factory people. They fired some of them, but not all of them. In any case, she wanted to, like I would say a competent leader would do, protect her staff and try to ensure that her mandate could be met without understaffing. And she didn't want to meet the quota that Elon asked her to. He decided to make an example out of her and go all the way to the extent of firing everybody.
500 people.
I mean, in my opinion, if you want to make an example, still would have been stupid. He could have just fired her, but fired everybody. And now they're crawling back and hiring back a bunch of the people. So that's I think the second source in the slide there is talking about the rehiring that's happening. And it's also just a lot of damage control they have to do. A lot of people freaked out at this news and thought this means like they're not going to have superchargers anymore. Don't be like that afraid. I mean, be afraid of Elon Musk being crazy. But like, this is not really a reflection of their long-term plans. It's more so a reflection of his poor leadership and him trying to make an example out of this team that is really like one of their best teams that really makes the company shine. So kind of following on the heels of the last story, Tesla's reputation plummets in 2024 Axios Harris Poll 100. So specifically what this poll looks at is it's trying to rank the public opinion of 100 really well-known companies. And so Tesla is still in the list, which is still a good thing, but they're now one of the lesser regarded car brands. So they're behind Honda, Toyota, Subaru, GM, and Ford,
Wow.
but they outrank Volkswagen still by a few points. So they've dropped from, I think they peaked at like 3 or something really high on the list a few years ago. They dropped to rank 63, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a horrible place to be, but it's not good. It would be great if we had a competent leader who inspired more people to really like the brand and not have to have me.
That's the Hyundai crew.
And a bit more positive news for Tesla, they broke ground on a new mega factory. I guess it's called a mega factory because it's going to be building primarily. Yeah, kind of funny that they call their factories gigafactories. This one's a mega factory, which you'd think is 1,000 times smaller than a gigafactory. But it's just for making mega packs. Okay, my typo, mega packs.
That's what I was talking about, Megapacks.
Yeah.
But you're back to Megapacks later, so.
So this will be their second global megapack factory, adding to the one they have in the US. There we go. All right, and our last news story, not really a formal news story, but for those who are following the new Model 3 performance are just excited to see all the performance specs. People are starting to take delivery of them and starting to share some of their performance results online. We don't have like enough to really know the exact performance results yet, because it's all kind of stuff with like caveats, like someone did a quarter-mile run, but it was wet. So probably not the best case scenario, but even in the wet, they actually outperformed the old Model 3 performance by how much? Like half a second? Yeah, well, 0.4 seconds-ish in less than 4 miles. So it does look like in good conditions, they could probably break the 11-second, like get into the tens, which is a pretty nice milestone. And they're also getting 0 to 60 times a little bit faster than what Tesla was quoting. So good to see that. And yeah, should be a beast.
What's the insurance on one of those?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Just open your wallet and.
No, just yes.
It's not gonna be.
What's the insurance?
Yes. Standard.
Is this like,
Very, very little change.
Yeah.
is this like a plaid? and-
That's for like a, one of these media things they put out there to scare people away from buying Teslas. and EVs
So,
in general.
well, actually, this is plaid speed at 2.9 seconds. It's about the same as plaid, right?
No,
It's not even.
Plaid is like 2.2.
It's not even.
But it's still, I mean, it's still
So like the 1 second
I-
difference at that rate is like a huge jump.
I thought you can feel the difference under like above like 800 horsepower. You can. I still reeling from.
It's crazy.
It is.
Did you drive a Plaid? If that fast, your skin feels like it's been peeled back.
And it was slipping. And my and that's the windshield.
Anyway, that wraps up the news. So
Okay, cool. So anyways, regular plug for becoming a member if you're not. One thing we found out is that some memberships have been renewed automatically, so we'll be getting back to people on that. There's a few that haven't renewed. One thing I want to mention, so before we go to the roundtable, I want to give Art a couple of minutes. The YouTube channel, if you want to go, please subscribe. We have over 90 subscribers now.
I have so much editing to do.
So, yes, it's gonna be fun. So before we do the roundtable, and Mike does the closing of the meeting for the non-live participants. Art, do you want to talk a bit about the project that you're proposing to do?
Maybe what I'll do, because of these difficulties, I'll just proceed quickly through it. And at least leave the concept with those that can hear. I'm proposing setting up a virtual power plant, which is really an it's an aggregation of
No, it's our internet.
primarily solar and batteries that are feeding into the grid. And of course, with vehicle to grid technology coming online in sometime in the future, maybe somebody can tell me a bit more than I know. This is quite important when it comes to the grid and grid stability itself. What has happened in Ontario is that the Minister of Energy has directed the electricity boards to go off and bring in a ultra low overnight energy rate, which in essence means that you can buy electricity at night for 2.8 cents per kilowatt hour. And if you avoid the peak times between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., where the electricity rates go up to 28.6 cents per kilowatt hour. So there's a factor of 10 there that says if you can shift your electrical energy consumption from between 4 and 6 to overnight, then you're doing very well. And of course, what that means for EV owners is you shift your charging of your EVs always to overnight. and and this is going to save you a great deal of money in your your invoices you get from Hydro One or Hydro Ottawa. Now, what we have to do is pretend that you're the grid and you're looking back at a house, and you see four things. You see the house itself, which is drawing loads from appliances, lights, and etc. You get to see the solar, what the solar array is generating and is trying to dump on you, because that's excess capacity above what is required by the home. You can see the battery, a home battery, or hopefully soon vehicles themselves that are available there to either absorb or deliver energy to the grid. And of course, the fourth thing that you see are the EV chargers themselves, which many of them can be controlled a number of ways. Now, this aggregation, of course, has a number of interesting characteristics with it, in that, as you can fully appreciate, every home is different, and different lifestyles by everyone that lives in a different home. And but some of that is revealed in their billings that they get from the utilities. The same goes with solar. If you have rooftop solar, that then you can use some of that solar energy, which you can then sell to the grid. And if you can sell it at 28 cents per kilowatt hour during the peak time, that's a very good thing to do. And you use your battery to run your home through those very high charge rate times, and then you top up at night. And so what to try and wrap my arms around all this. By the way, I've been doing this since last December, and I'm at the state now where it is so profitable to me that I do not pay anything for electricity. I get so many credits because of time shifting and because of the fact that I sell excess solar to them. And, or pardon me, I don't sell, I trade. I get energy credits through my net metering agreement. But I get enough of them to last me throughout the winter. And to even verify that, I had to go and build a mathematical model that says how all these nonlinear differential equations work together, and in fact it ends up interestingly that there's 5 nonlinear differential equations with 5 major unknowns, and so I have to solve those simultaneously, which is totally doable, and some very interesting things come out of it. I have, in fact, talked to the Ottawa Renewable Energy Co-op, OREC, and they're so interested in this that they're agreeing to take over leadership of this and to work with Blue Wave AI to see if we can come up with a program we can put forward to the IESO for a pilot program, which would probably run between $2 and $3 million worth of work, and we'll be looking for up to about 1,000 participants in the Ottawa area, and I would see those people coming from organizations like EVCO, because there are not only clearly EV owners, but some of you probably also have solar, and and so as well as you may well have battery storage. But we've also approached Isolara, who's a solar installer, and there's other solar installers around we can approach, and to try and encourage participation in this pilot program, which will in fact also try and arrange to have either a megapack battery at just for this use, or to work with the ISO to use, say, one of their megapacks out in Trail Road. And but we are putting together a proposal and an idea thing, of which we have already made some headway on preparing. I have put a link into the chat for this conference, and I have also sent it to Raymond. Sorry, Raymond. I forgot your name for a second. And so it's on your email, and you can share with others. But the whole idea is to try and verify that this math model will indeed be sufficiently predictive so that people can determine in advance what they believe is a very highly reliable prediction of whether or not this is suitable for them financially. Now, to do that, I'm going to do 4 specific sites, all of them locally to where I am, because weather conditions are all about the same. I will of course use my microgrid, which has of course it has 5 kilowatts of solar. It is 3 Tesla Powerwall batteries. I have 2 EVs, a Model 3 and a IMA EV now, and I'm getting another home that is close by, which has smaller solar, and it only has 1 Powerwall battery, but a Model 3, and I just want to show that the math model, which uses predictor corrector techniques, can in fact pick up on different lifestyles and the way people actually live. The third one I've got is another local home that only has solar and has a Model 3 EV. Wanted to demonstrate that says, look, this works very nicely with only some solar, and if you have an EV. And then I have as well one local resident who only has a Model 3 EV, and so I want to focus in on and see how profitable this will be only with an EV. Clearly, there's all sorts of other variations, and one can run this model in multiple ways to see what the impact is. But for now, I'm just going to focus in on those 4. And at this stage, part of the problem is getting actual measurements, because one has to say, well, the model sounds interesting, but how in the world do I know it's really doing any good? And the only way I know how to verify that is to use the billing that I get from Hydro One. That's an independent measurement. And so far I have, because I've been at this since January, my January billing, and my first 2 billings were such that I wasn't generating enough credits, so I never had any excess. But that was because it was, midwinter, and that's very bad when your solar arrays are covered in ice. And but come spring, I broke through the barrier and started having excess credits. when I have excess credits, that means I'm not paying for any electricity at all. I'm just putting credits in my back pocket, waiting
so-
for next winter.
So,
So-
Art, just for a second there, so we missed some of it here because we lost the connectivity, right? But my understanding from what I talked to earlier today is, and before, you want to do a project where there'll be a virtual power plant, right? And you
Yeah.
also have a mathematical model that models predicts. I'm not sure exactly what it does, but you want to validate the model, right? So the question is, from my perspective, is what would you like EVCO to do, and what are the next steps for you?
Okay, what I'm going to be very interested in, or perhaps not me, because I'm in fact handing leadership of this over to the OREC, the Ottawa Renewable Energy Corp, because they have expressed great interest in this, and of course they're very interested in starting to work with Blue Wave AI as well, and I become then a resource for OREC, and in fact we're meeting tomorrow to talk about this. Ultimately, what I see coming from EVCO is we will approach EVCO and say, is there anyone interested in being, say, part of this program, and which will be quite a large thing. And for example, probably nothing like they have in California. In California, they're running a similar virtual power plant with 16,000 people who have home batteries and of course solar. If we can get 1,000, then we'd be absolutely delighted, and put that forward to the ISO and to run this pilot program. So all I'm really doing is introducing it to you at this stage. And if you wish to read some of the material that we've prepared, it's Raymond has the link, and I put it in chat as well, and so you can go and take a look at that. But I think we'll leave it at that. If there's any questions at this stage, I'll see if I can address them.
So Art, what I'll do is I'll take that link and add it to the deck before I put it on the website, so people will have the link. Okay,
Yeah.
but I think that overall, just like the what Hydro was doing with Blue Wave, there's lots of interest to participate, right? And I know from my perspective, the more we can do to make this happen faster, the better it is, right? So I certainly welcome being a participant, and I'm an OREC member also, so fits well in them all, right? So anyways, but looking forward to see what the next steps are, and at that point, I definitely want to be trying to recruit members, right?
Okay, Sam's about to make noise, so I'm gonna wrap up the meeting for a second.
Can I just ask a
And then we
quick
can
question
go
here?
to- In roundtable, you can ask a question. For the people watching us online, stick around. We're gonna do a roundtable in just a second as soon as Sam's done making noise. If you're watching us on YouTube, this is where your video ends. We'll see you next month. Thanks for watching, and see you later. All right, Sam.